guest is a 24-year business banking leader who works with business owners across Washington state through his partnership with Gisa Credit Union, which happens to be the second largest credit union in the state, where he is their SBA lending manager. His goal is to assist small businesses in restructuring their balance sheet, purchasing equipment, acquiring another business, also, most importantly, to stop renting and instead purchase your own commercial real estate. He does this through the government guarantee programs through the U.S. Small Business Administration, which is SBA, which provide lower down payments and longer terms than conventional financing. And for all you women out there that are listening, I am a minority-owned business, and Small Business Association works with that. So if that's something that you've never checked out before, I really encourage you to do that. We'll talk more about that a little bit later, but please welcome Paul Long to the show. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much, Jill. Appreciate it.
I'm so excited for this conversation. We both have banking backgrounds, so we're going to get into some really amazing stuff today. So Tell me, how'd you get started in banking? 24 years is a really long time.
It is. And I just turned 40. So for those who are really good at math, you can do the math. So I started a week after my 16th birthday as a teller for Wells Fargo before they grandfathered in that you have to be 18. So I was definitely the youngest kid in high school with a cool bank job. My brother is in the banking field, and he started out as a teller, and I worked across the street at a place called Burger Ranch in Selah, Washington, in Eastern Washington, and right across the street was the Wells Fargo. And as I was sitting there flipping burgers, cleaning toilets, I said, you know what? I want to do something better. And so I looked over and I said, I'm going to do this, and went through the interview process. And a week after my 16th birthday, hired as a teller. I have moved on to managing a branch at the age of 18. 21, I managed a cluster of branches. And at around 25, I really got into business banking, and that's where my love has been for business banking, and that's where I'm at. So I'm a lifelong banker. People say, oh, nobody wants to start out in banking. Well, I did.
Right. And I mean, it's turned into something amazing too. I mean,
absolutely.
The amount of people that you can help. I mean, it's the same thing with insurance agents. Nobody thinks that that's like that glamorous of a job, but helping a small business, I mean, you are literally changing people's lives. And as you started this transition in banking, what made you want to start working with small businesses?
So many things. First and foremost, I felt like there was a big gap in the market, and I still think there is a gap in that market today. So you have, I believe that in business banking, there's three sections. You have the kid that gets out of college and the big bank hires them to be your business specialist. They have never run a business, never seen a balance sheet, never seen a P&L, and they're sitting across from you trying to open up a business checking account. Oh, you need a loan, you need this. You don't have a clue because you have never been there. As I was growing up, I also had a small business. So I've been there and done that before. And then on the other side, you get these people who have been in banking for 30 some years. And I only look at your loan request if you're, $5 million. What about the people in the middle? It's all about that. And that's where a majority of businesses are. And those people are not getting the service that they should have. And that's why, looking at SBA is a great option, conventional, that entire world of that middle space, I just think is so critical. And I love, last night I drove up to Mukilteo and saw one of my customers. I helped him buy a building, and he just expanded it into the entire thing. And he was so excited to show me around. That's why I wake up in the morning. That's why I work with people, is I get to see them be excited. And they're like, you helped me get here. And I love that part. Trust me, there's plenty of parts of the business I don't like, but for that part, it makes up for everything, is being able to take care of business owners like that.
Well, and there's probably a lot of common obstacles that you see with us business owners when we're trying to secure financing, because I feel like that's probably one of the biggest struggles that people have. So do you think there are some common through lines for businesses?
There are so many obstacles that I see small business owners encountering. The first and foremost is they're coming to me as the banker too late. I have seen many people make an offer on a building, and now they come to me for financing. They've never done it before, and they went and they did it on their own, and they don't have a financing contingency. Are you kidding me? Like, you just got yourself into a contract that you can't get out of, and you don't even know if I can do the loan or not. And so they come to me too late because, have they prepared financially for a building that they're going to want to buy, or a big piece of equipment that's going to, maximize their productivity or something. We got to look at the financials. We got to make sure that you're ready for it. If you're not, then you're going to start getting into hard money lending, and you're going to start having, 15% interest rates, and you're not going to be real happy. Well, you gotta come to the banker ahead of time. You have to have a connection. You got to have that relationship with the banker before you need to do something large. I will do those types of meetings all the time where I'm just getting people ready for the next step. And I just think that's so critical on there. That's one. Another one that's crazy is you have too much debt. I mean, you're thinking growing is going to get you out of the debt situation that you're in. Now, in some cases you can do that, but in most cases, it's not going to work. So you really have to grow, and your debt can grow, but you better be growing to make up with that. And so, having too much debt and just growing too fast. I mean, I understand when you start a business or anything with a business, you want to grow. I want to make $1 million. I want to grow. You're a great example of this, Jill, in your businesses. But what you always want to make sure you do is don't grow too fast. Businesses that go from 0 to 5 million in a year, I applaud you for doing that. That's huge. But did you also take on a ton of debt, or did you do that from grit, hitting the streets, that type of stuff, and you have a small amount of debt, and you're at 5 million in a year? Hey, congratulations. Do that all day long. But that isn't normal. What people do is they grow too fast. They buy too much equipment. And it doesn't work from a bank and credit union way in that way. So just those are probably the three on there. Is, again, coming to the bank too late, having too much debt as you're growing, and just growing too fast, are just some of those obstacles that business just really need to be careful about.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there was 2 points that I picked up on that I was like, oh my gosh, these are 2 like golden nuggets. Was the most important part is establishing that relationship with a banker ahead of time, because as our businesses grow, I always talk about, you've got to have your accountant, you've got to have your attorney, you've also got to have your business banker, because all
100%.
of those people are working together to make sure that your business is growing at the rate it should be. Like you mentioned, not buying too much stuff up front, because it's hard not to, because you're excited. But what do you think the best way, besides that relationship, is that people can do to prepare for financing ahead of time? I'm sure this is probably like it's got to be a long runway, right? Like, if I'm thinking about buying a building, how far out do I need to be planning? And even if I don't have a relationship with somebody yet, that's probably going to take even longer. Can you kind of timeline that out for us?
Absolutely. I mean, definitely starting that relationship. And again, even if it is, and sometimes the branch manager at your bank, that's kind of the gateway. Okay. And then they'll refer you, or they'll help you into the right way into getting that knowledge into the business banker. But when I'm talking about a relationship, of course, I'm talking about, a relationship. Let's have a cup of coffee, that type of stuff. But the same point too, they need to have a relationship where the business banker has seen the financials, is able to give some coaching advice. That's what I'm really talking about with building a relationship is that type of a thing. Having it is still crazy to me how many business owners do not have a current P&L. And it's heartbreaking to see that, because how do you know where you're going and driving your business when you have no idea what the score is? It baffles my mind. So having a P&L is so important, and it's so simple. Please, get a bookkeeper. I know you're spending money, you're trying to save money, but there's certain areas of your business you do not just, you don't do that with. And bookkeeping is one of those important things. Having that, and again, do you have a down payment? Banks are going to lend. Okay, here's probably the biggest thing. If you take away anything from this podcast, take away this. Banks lend money to people when they need it the least.
Amen. I'm so glad you said that. Yes, yes.
You won't hear that from people, but it's the freaking truth. Okay. So, because when you need it, you're in a situation where it's not as easy for the bank to say yes. When you say, okay, Mr. Banker, Mrs. Banker, here I have 10, 20% down. I have a P&L that shows that I can afford this payment and all my debt. You're going to make the banker cry of happiness, because that's not normally how people come to us. So we want to help you in that relationship to get you ready for that. I have a down payment. I have a good profit and loss. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to shop. Do not start shopping until you have done those two things, please. I am strangling you through your microphone. Do not do that. You're just not ready at that point. So, and banks want to make sure that you have the down payment. That's a really big piece of the puzzle.
Well, and here's the thing too. If you start shopping before you do like the not so fun paperwork part, you're going to find something that you fall in love with, and you're like, what do you mean I missed out on that? Place was perfect. You could probably, if you had $1 for every time a business owner said that to you, you'd probably be a millionaire.
All the time. And it's painful. So yeah, don't do that. Don't tease yourself. Stay away from the websites until you're ready.
Now, jumping back to the timeline part of it. So let's say that you are in a business, you have your business, and you're like, okay, we need to expand. Let's say, like you mentioned, the person in Mukilteo, like we need to get a bigger building. Yep. What's the timeline look like that? Like, okay, we've had the thought that we know we need to expand. Are we talking years? Are we talking months, weeks? What does that look like?
I would at least want to start the conversation before you file your next tax return, which is usually about a year. Because what you want to do is, again, business owners and accountants, there's always a war between business bankers and accountants. Accountants, write it off. And you want us to write everything off. But at the same point too, we need to make sure you show a profit. So that's why I'm saying before your next tax return, so we can get you ready for that, where your tax returns show that you can afford it. So a year to answer your question, Jill. But again, it depends. If you're farther ahead in the process, it could be 6 months. It could be 2 days. But generally speaking, a year before would be a great way to start planning for any large purchase, whether it's a building, buying a business, buying another business, whatever. Give me a year.
Well, and probably the same thing is true with your accountant too. You should probably be communicating that with them as well, that you're like, hey, I'm thinking about buying this building, or whatever it might be, so that you can work in conjunction with that accountant and make sure that those things are running smoothly. Everybody's on the same page, right? Everything works better when everybody's communicating together.
Absolutely. The banker and the CPA should talk to each other. When they don't talk to each other, then you get two pieces of advice that sometimes work, sometimes doesn't. There's different strategies. It's good to have that communication between banker and CPA.
Well, and everybody's life experiences too are so different that somebody might give you the advice to not buy a building and rent it, and that might not be what you want to do. So making sure
Correct.
that you have those relationships established ahead of time
Mhm.
is amazing. Now, if somebody is not located in Washington, Oregon, or Idaho, which is the states that you serve, what's
Mhm.
a good place where people can find out more information? Because I feel like we really need to start the conversation about
Mhm.
finances and make it okay to talk about it
Yep.
and get people's questions answered, because I think there's this stigma, especially in financial services, banking, all of those things, where people are really intimidated to walk into a bank and be like, hey, I need some help. I need to talk to somebody. You know, it could be for multiple reasons why they haven't already done that. But what's
Yep.
your suggestions on that?
So I am a huge believer of education. I always have been, and I want to provide education. Whether you do business with me or not, I don't care. I want to give you the secrets of the industry, okay? And I do that through my website, which is paultlong.com. And on there, I have many different ways that I help business owners through articles. I have a video series about how to buy a building, and there are short 2-minute videos on every step of the process, from the application to what is title insurance, to how long does the appraisal, the costs and fees, the loan structure. I go through all of that in about 16 to 20 videos, which, boy, that's fun to put together. Um, but I'm also planning on doing one also here soon on buying a business and doing the exact same process. So again, it's not about, I'm going to give you general industry information, which I think is absolutely critical on that. So again, check that out. I definitely want to encourage people to kind of stop renting and start paying yourself through rent. The only, in my opinion, the only time that I believe people should be renting is if you're in the first, say, 2 to 3 years of your business, that initial growth stage. That is where you should probably rent to make sure your business concept and everything works well. But after that, it's time to buy. It's time to start building equity and putting money back in your pocket instead of the darn landlord.
Well, because ain't nobody want to pay triple net. You know what I mean? Like,
Triple debt's brutal.
oh, man, that will chew you up and spit you out. Because when I rented my first big girl building, I was like, say what? I got to pay what? I
Well,
mean, that was like,
and I don't know if all of your listeners know, there's a gross lease and then there is a triple net lease. A gross lease is a typical lease where you would go ahead and, my rent is $2,000 a month and everything's included. I pay electricity on my own, like it would your apartment rental. Okay. A triple net lease is what commercial is primarily going to, because it benefits the landlord the best. And if you're a landlord, you're like, yeah, baby, triple net, love it. Because what that is you're paying a base rent and you are paying your percentage of everything else, with the exception of insurance.
yep.
So if there's a big repair, that's a part of your triple net. Taxes, building taxes go up, your triple net goes up. It's not great for the person who's renting, but it's great for the landlord, which is another reason for you to go buy your own building. And even you can rent off a part of it, and you can be a landlord. That's no problem too. But that's the huge takeaway.
Well, and I want to dive into the SBA, because I think the SBA is great.
Yeah.
They really like jumped into action over these last couple years. I mean, they were always around, always available, but I feel like what they've done over the last couple years has been really amazing. So let's talk about real high level, of course,
Oh
because
yeah, absolutely.
that's a rabbit hole we could jump into and go down forever.
Correct.
But if somebody's like, SBA, what the heck is that? Like, let's talk a little bit about what the SBA does, what their role is.
Absolutely. So the Small Business Administration, the whole goal of them, and again, they did such a great job on PPP. As a lender, it took years off my life going through the PPP process, but you know what? I do it again because of how many business owners that was helped by PPP and the EIDL program. The whole point of SBA, think of SBA as an insurance policy. It's an insurance policy where you pay the premium up front as a borrower, but in case of a default, the the bank gets paid up to 75, 85% of the loan. So in case there's a default, we liquidate, and it's not a good situation for you by any means, but we kind of get the core of the money back, okay, through the government. But what that also allows the bank to do is to lend in areas, and not just areas, but industries and credit types, et cetera, that they just normally wouldn't do. And we can also do that through a lower down payment. So say conventional's 25% down. On an SBA, it's 10% to buy a building. Well, that's pretty huge. That keeps more money in your business. You do have a higher loan payment because it's more of a loan, but that's the whole point of SBA. They'll give you longer terms. So between longer terms, interest rate flexibility, there's a lot of benefits towards SBA. But again, you do have to pay for that insurance premium. Nothing's free, okay? But you have to pay for that in the form of an SBA fee at some point during the beginning of that process. So SBA is a phenomenal program. I encourage all business owners to take a look at that or reach out to me and I can share with you some of the details. But there's also, it could be not right for some people too. And I'll tell you that too, because maybe if you have 25% down and you're a strong, experienced business, then maybe conventional is the way to go. You got to do what's best for you and your business. But man, there's a lot of benefits in SBA.
Well, and I really think too, I mean, just personally going through it through the women-owned, minority-owned businesses to see what SBA could do to partner with those of us that fall into that category that have jumped through those hoops and done all that paperwork. It's pretty amazing, like what they're able to offer us. And I mean, if that's something that one of our listeners fall into, I think it's huge to go through that process because that could make a big difference. So do you have any suggestions on that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, women-owned businesses go through that, especially if you're going to do any sort of government contracting. Oh my God, get your women-owned business certification. That is a huge thing. There's 8A certification, which is another thing. If you're a veteran, there's some benefits for veterans and more of really that the SBA fee is either reduced or removed based on a certain dollar amount. So that's a good thing for our men and women in military. And again, SBA is growing. Because of PPP, there's going to be new programs that come out, new ways to help. What is just so awesome is the SBA does not actually take any money from the government. It is a self-sustaining organization because the fees offset the losses. So it's not, we could do tons of SBA loans and it's not adding more to the debt or anything like that, not to get political, but that is the case. And so SBA is such a gem out there and people really need to take a look at it and see if it's right for them.
Now, tell me again, too, where can people go if they want to find out more information about SBA, to watch those videos more importantly? Where's the best place for people to stop by?
Absolutely. PaulTLong.com. Again, Paul T. Long, all one word, .com.
And I'll be sure to link that in the show notes as well. And what were you going to say? You're super active on Facebook, right?
I am also very active in Facebook. Like to have some fun too on Facebook. So I do have my tagline is every business owner needs a Paul. And everybody does need to, just like I was saying, you need to have a banker before you need them. And that's the whole point of my tagline. So check me out there at Paul T. Long. Every business owner needs a Paul on Facebook. But you can also look at that through my website.
Now, one question that I like to ask all of my guests is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a small business owner?
It absolutely goes back to having a relationship with a banker before you need them. It all comes back to that. You need a guide. Don't do things on your own. There are plenty of resources out there that can help you. There's also SCORE, Small Business Development Center, that are free and will help you get the financing you need, help you with your business plan, help you with all of that. I'm just another resource out there. There's lots of free resources, and you can also get those on my website as well, paultlong.com. But have a relationship before you need it. That's just a big, big takeaway.
Well, and I think too, to not be afraid to reach out to someone and say, I don't know anything about this. Can
That's
you
right.
help me? I mean, I feel like there's so much
Absolutely.
stigma about people saying, oh, yeah, I know everything. And it's like, you don't have to know everything. You can reach out to people and say, I'm totally confused by this SBA thing. Is it even the right option for me or an option at all? So making sure that whether it's your banker, your accountant, your CPA, your bookkeeper, your attorney, whoever it is, making sure that you reach out to those people, establish those relationships. I could not agree with you more. So many good things we've talked about today. I know there's going to be so many things that people are going to be able to take away from this podcast and be like, okay, today I'm going to go down to my local bank. I'm going to see if this person is a good fit for me, if we vibe, if we can get that relationship, get together for coffee, figure out what my business is looking for, what that future looks like. So thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. And don't forget, credit unions also, not just banks.
That's true.
Credit unions are also doing a lot in business banking and can really help your business grow as well.
Well, and I think that credit unions too, not to say that banks wouldn't, but credit unions might be more likely to invest in their community because credit unions start really small, right? They have that focus.
That is the mission of credit unions. Credit unions are not for profit. They're not nonprofit. They're not for profit. There's a big difference. But they really do want to help in their communities. And this is just another way to do it.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate it.